How will it work on game day? Will you make all the calls outright, or will Coach Pelini be heavily involved with you since it's being your first game as a defensive coordinator?
Well, regardless of who the coordinator is, Bo's going to make a majority of the calls, if not all, and that's always going to be the case. And that's how it should be. I mean, he's gotten to the point he has in his career because he's a tremendous defensive football coach, and he has a talent to call games and does a great job. So, at the end of the day, he'll make most of the calls. But what we talk about a lot around our defense is everything we do is a team and a collaborative effort. We game plan as a staff. We make game day decisions as a staff, and a lot of times we discuss calls as a group. So at the end of the day, coach is going to make the decision, but we're all going to have our input.
Levante, for those of us who haven't talked to you at all before, could you just kind of talk about what it was like in the process of having to go to JUCO? I presume for prove your grades, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. Having had such a successful high school career at such a good high school, that process of having to not be able to go to a Division I school initially, and how you kind of worked through that, and what it was like when you realized you had the opportunity to play at Nebraska, even though it's only for 2 years.
Out of high school, seeing all your friends, your close friends going to big Division I school, and you have to go to a JUCO, junior college, it's a real humbling moment. But at the same time, I knew it had to be a reason for me. I think God guided me through this path, and I feel like He led me to a great place. I met a bunch of great people here, and junior college is a tough experience, but at the same time, it helped you realize the reality of things.
Rex, motivation's a big talk about bowl games, team trying to find a way to get motivated. South Carolina's trying to set school history with the 11th win. What is the rallying cry for your team? What is it the focus that coaches are putting on them?
Yeah, it's just like we, how we, approach every week. You're never supposed to play a different way because you're playing someone else, or it's, a bowl game or something. You're always supposed to play the same way, week in and week out. And, our focus has been great throughout the week. The coaches have prepared us very well, even in the practices leading up to this bowl week. And so, we're going into the game like it's just, another game, and we're going to go out there and play like we always have.
Hey, John, how have you seen Rick adapt this week, and has he been able to contribute any ideas? What will he be able to do come Monday?
From the day he got onto campus, Rick has been right in the mix, and I thought, I probably in this whole process, his transition has probably been a little bit lost. It's not easy coming to a place where you don't know anybody, you don't know any of the support staff, you don't know any of the players, you barely know any of the other coaches, and to roll your sleeves up and get in the mix as well as he's done is a tremendous compliment to him. And yes, he has contributed ideas in terms of how we're going about the game plan, experiences that he's had in his past, and the players have taken to him quickly. You can tell he's a good football coach, he's a good teacher, he understands the game, and I'm really excited going forward because I think he's a tremendous addition to our staff.
Hey Tim, South Carolina's defense is as a whole is a pretty good unit, specifically up front. What have you seen from them on film with their pass rush?
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Taking a look at those guys, look like dragsters coming at you sometimes. But they're fast, and I think all over the place. I think even in the secondary, I think they're underrated on the back end. They don't get as much credit, but they do a good job over there. And we got to stay out of those situations where they can pin their ears back and come get us. That's going to be, I think, a big key to the ball game, is being in manageable third down situations. So we just don't put a bullseye on the quarterback and say, go get him.
If both coordinators can answer this, please. With 3 weeks to get ready for one team, can you overdo it? Can you overcross T's and dot I's?
Oh, I think that's something you have to guard against a little bit. You do have so much preparation time, and it gives you a chance to look at things and try different ideas and try different thoughts. But I think at the end of the day, you got to stay with your core beliefs and philosophies and what got you here. And I think that's what we're trying to focus on doing. I think it's something you got to guard against. But I think to this point we've managed it well and kept it as close to a normal game week as you possibly can.
And I think, to reiterate what JP said, you can. I mean, I think you can overstudy the film and you see a couple of instances here and say, wow, we got to make sure we hit that. And, you can get into overcoaching on them. The players have to understand your core system and they have to be able to go out and adjust. And even though you feel like you're covering all the information, they also have 3 weeks to repair. So they may be tweaking something different. I know they've had to change, defensively. So, we worked on the things that we know we need to do to win the ball game, the fundamentals, the techniques, the system in place, and be able to go out there and execute at a high level and be very consistent and to be able to adjust, because that's part of the system. We got to be able to adjust on the run. And so as far as preparing, you can, but you also have to make sure the core belief of your system and what you're trying to do, they get, because they got to be able to adjust on the run.
This is for John. How much different will this game be for you? I mean, and how much different has the week been at all?
Obviously it's been different because the role is different, but in terms of the preparation and the anxiety or anxiousness leading up to the game, it's not much different. The role to me feels comfortable. I think it's been a pretty good transition. Levante can answer it better than me probably with the players. It's pretty much business as usual, and there's just a little bit different roles going forward. But I think people think it's just the line that we use, but truly everything we do is very team oriented, and whether that's from a coaching perspective or with our players. So when things change, they don't really change that much because the team and group philosophy remains the same.
For the coordinators, if you're involved in college football, obviously not being able to go out on New Year's Eve is a good thing. So what do you guys do tonight? What's curfew, and how do you celebrate the New Year?
Probably watching film inside, but I know my wife probably doesn't like hearing that. But I think curfew for our guys is 11:30 tonight. I think our players have had opportunities to get a chance to enjoy Orlando and see the parks earlier in the week. And as we talked today after practice, it's about getting focused now, really on the details of the game, so we can go out and perform at a high level. And that's really where the mentality is with our football team right now. There's a reason we're here, and so it's time to put that into action.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds as pathetic as it sounds. I think this might be the first. It's been probably 6 or 7 years since my wife's made it to a new year, and we're pretty quick to bed. So I don't know that this year is going to be much different than that. But right now it's weird to say, but I asked Bo this earlier this morning. I says, today New Year's Eve. I kind of lost track of what we're doing. It feels like a Thursday of game week, and that's kind of the mentality going forward. There'll be time to celebrate the new year. After the game, I guess. But, I don't know. I haven't made it to a new year yet since 2004, so that's pathetic, but it is what it is.
This is for Rex. Over here. Rex, these are the two guys that really recruited you out of high school. What insights do you have into their personalities based on having long relationship with them that you can share that maybe we haven't heard before?
Yeah, Coach JP, he started off, recruiting me throughout the process, and then, Coach Beck came on later on, and, both are just great guys. They were a big reason why I came to the University of Nebraska. During one of my basketball practices in high school, JP made a half-court shot, saying he underhanded it, saying, if I make this, you have to come to Nebraska. And he ended up swishing it right there in front of some other college coaches, so... I just kind of figured it was fate, and then made my decision not too long after that. So, both, I'm glad I came here. They're both great guys. I love playing for them, and they have a tremendous mind for the game, and I love most respect for both of them.
And this is for Tim and JP. You know, the two of you are pretty good friends. What do you admire about the other? What do you respect the most about the other?
I'll go first on this one. I think I'll throw out the comments first. I think Tim has always been a competitive hard worker. You know, whether that was him coaching the running backs or his role on special teams, whatever he was, or in recruiting, whatever he was asked to do, he was always one of those guys that did it to the best of his ability and never complained. You know, and on every staff, there's always those guys who are willing to do whatever it takes to help the team and the program have success. And Tim's always been one of those guys. And, you know, I've admired that and respected that. And, you know, I think that's why he's been able to be where he is in his career at this point.
I think with JP, you know, obviously we are good friends. And it's rare you see a guy, you know, he endured. He took the path a lot of people don't want to take. It's a microwave society anymore. They want to pop it in for 30 seconds and be where they need to be. And he endured, and he learned, and he had a lot of patience, extremely hardworking, and he's incredibly intelligent. He has the it factor, just like these two players up here. That's what good coaches recognize, is when people have that it factor that makes them different than other people. There's a lot of hardworking people. There's a lot of guys that put in the hours, or guys that coach ball and run around and scream, but there's a handful of people that are different, and they have it. And you can't really describe it, but it's there, and he has it, and that's why he's where he's at, and as successful as he is, and he's a great person on and off the field, and I know I can count on him for anything.
All right, we have time for two more.
John, how much of a challenge was it having not played college football, starting out and not necessarily having those connections? How much of a challenge was it, and how'd you go about kind of establishing those connections?
Well, ignorance is bliss sometimes, and if I had known what I know now about how challenging it really was in hindsight, I don't know that I would have even tried. You know, when I tell people the story of how I got my first job at Kansas by submitting like random letters and resumes, they kind of laugh and think I'm teasing, because that doesn't happen very often. But you know, I'm a firm believer in things happen for a reason, and you know, God, you know, put me, you know, at the places I was at the time for reasons. The good things and the bad things that have happened throughout, you know, my career. Looking back at it now, at least I can see why they happened, and you know, I guess at this point I'm just happy for the opportunity, ready to embrace the challenges ahead, and the biggest thing for me is, you know, a lot of the questions that I've been fielding the last week or so almost makes it seem as if there's some arrival on the scene, but if that's my mentality, it's going to be a short-lived career. It's just beginning, and the challenges that lay ahead are just beginning.
So you made it to Nebraska. What are the things that you like about coaching in Nebraska, being part of the program?
Well, I mean, when, you know, as a kid or anyone who's a fan of college sports, obviously you recognize and understand the tradition that goes along with a place like Nebraska. You know, whether that was being in high school, watching them go through that run in the mid-'90s of national championships, or, you know, watching Coach Osborne, you know, as a kid. I mean, I understood the tradition that went along with being part of the program. And then when you get here and you get to see the passion and commitment that the fans have to the program, and how important it is to the whole state, it makes you, you know, it humbles you, and it makes you understand what a big role that you play in a lot of people's lives, and how important it really is to the people who are fans of this program.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.